We've been asking for your pictures to critique, and Jace, one of our followers, kindly sent in some street photography. So let's have a look. So what we're trying to do here is just to kind of help an individual compose maybe a little bit better, certainly crop a little bit better. Now, they'll decide whether that is better or not. Really what we're trying to do is just kind of help everybody by giving comments on somebody's photographs. But it is really important. The Sunscreen song is one of my favorite songs. If you don't know it, just go search. So advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. Now, essentially, all advice is rubbish. That's just it. All advice is bad. So you take the good bits out and you ignore the bits that don't relate to you at all. That's just the way it works. So let's go have a look. So in this really interesting image, there's a lot going on in here. What Jace has done is he's caught some very interesting action. But the issue is that the action itself isn't ascertained in the final image. So let's have a look here. I've had a good look at this picture and I can see that there is a sign, and that sign has somebody going to shush everybody. Now, if we go here, that is much more easily seen and understood. In this image, what we're seeing, I suppose I call these environmental images. They're about the things in their environment. And the environment can take over if you're not very careful. There's a lot of stuff going on here that draws our eye. Whereas the action, zoning in on the action, finding where the action is and going into there, I think makes a big difference. Now, I think it's important to understand that, well, certainly this is my belief. Having gone through this process myself, having had hundreds and thousands of students, our ability to have a zoom in our eyes when we're there is astonishing. We just have the zoom facility that's just active, and we see the things we're taking photographs of and we just blur out everything else. That's really what peripheral vision is about, being aware of something but just de-emphasizing it. But when we take the photograph, we seem to lose that ability completely. And I think that's the case here. So that if we see this, now all that action is going on within that shot, but it's only when we help the viewer to go in closer to it can we actually see that. Now, I jump forward to another photograph that he sent us here, and I think this is a really, really interesting photograph. And I wonder if the same zoom facility was going on as well. So there's a lot going on. The photographer knows what's going on, but the question is, does the viewer get to see what that is? So if we go in and zone in on the action, go in here. I'm cropping non-standard here just so that we can go and see like where all that action is, what Jace was seeing at the time of taking the shot. Now, let me recrop that a little bit so that we can come in here, and maybe we'll get rid of the fountain, and maybe we'll really go zone in on what the action is. Maybe take a little bit of the foreground here. We know what that pathway does. Goes left, goes right. And now we can see the action. So it was there in the original shot, but it's only when we zoom in can we really see that. But there's actually another shot here as well. And this is often the case with street photography. There are multiple crops within the one image itself. So if I go here now and show you what I think would be another interesting shot, and we go here and zone in on this action, this is what we get. So it's really amazing how feet apart, meters apart, two different kinds of shots can be got. And so we've gone from his main shot to that one where it's very peaceful. This one is less peaceful, but then you've got that kind of the opposites going on. A little bit of action, the kid playing around. So there are many shots within one. Find where the action is, and I think that's the key. And then this one, his final shot here that he sent us, this one is on film. I'm not sure if the shutter speed, because getting the EXIF data, the shutter, the aperture, the ISO into film is really difficult unless you've got an app. We used to have an app on the phone. They just don't do it anymore. So I must look at that again. So I would suggest that this also is another environmental image, that what we're seeing is we're seeing the totality of it, whereas the photographer at the time was very much aware of what the action was. So let's have a look here and go in close to what I think is where the shot is. Now again, it's what I think, so you take that with as much pinches of salt as you like. But I think it's within this cyclist and it's within this person looking back, and there's something going on here. What do we see when we go in there? This. So this is the environmental shot where we're not really seeing the detail because there's just so much for the eye to try to filter out. And that's what happens when you take all of it in. It's one kind of shot. But the action that's going on within that, if we can remove those distractions from the viewer, I think you're going to end up with a shot that's easier to enter, certainly. But whether that works or not, that's really down to you. And as I say, all advice is autobiographical, and that's what I would do. Whether that's something that you would do or consider doing, that's really up to you. But I would say take it on board, find out where the action is. At the time of a street photograph, so much is happening. It's so quick. It's like you're in the trenches. And it's oftentimes you have to crop later to make the shot work. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes on locations, sometimes you don't. But cropping later, I suppose it's one area of photography that I tend to crop a lot because of the speed of how the action unfolds in street photography. So Jace, thanks very much for sending that in. And as always, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments.